I'll try and make this as brief as possible. A couple years ago, just after our son had turned 1, I found text messages from my husband to different women that I found to be pretty inappropriate. One text was telling a mutual friend of ours that he would do just about anything to have intimacy with her. She, thankfully, said that comment made her very uncomfortable and shut that down. He, of course, had a great explanation for it that actually made sense, and for all the other messages to other women too, so I decided to forgive and move forward. Cut to a year later, and our son is 2, and I'm pregnant with our second child. We're at my dad's for dinner, and my husband keeps going to the bathroom for prolonged periods of time while we're all seated at the table eating. I get that gut feeling again that he's up to something shady. So, I once again did the thing I'm not supposed to do. I went snooping. And sure enough, he had been messaging an old friend from 20 years ago, telling her to post more selfies on IG so he has something to look at. I bring this up to him. He admits he deletes conversations he has with multiple people, including an ex-GF, because the conversations spoke about nothing inappropriate, but if me, were to read them, I would not be happy. So of course this leads into a long discussion, and he tells me none of the women he's talking to or him find anything within their conversations inappropriate, and I'm the only one with a problem with it. Thanks? Obviously, I'm leaving a ton out, but just trying to paint a picture. And basically after that second time finding messages, I lost all interest in putting effort into my relationship. We've seen 2 couples counselors. He's hated both of them. He puts no effort into our relationship because he claims he's waiting for me to start showing him I want this relationship to work. Okay, here is where I learned my husband is a creepier than I realized. A couple weeks ago, a longtime family friend of mine pulled me aside and told me he is in a group chat with my husband and one other male friend, Dan. He told me some of the things my husband and the other guy say about women is pretty weird, and he, my family friend, is surprised my husband feels comfortable saying this with him in the chat, knowing my close relationship with him. Then the next week at a party, a woman I had never met before came up to me and said she had met my husband a year earlier and he made a joke, sexual in nature, about her and her sister that made her very uncomfortable. She told me she was apprehensive to meet me because she wondered what kind of woman he would be married to. Thankfully, her and I got along amazingly, and I apologized to her on my husband's behalf. So 2 nights ago, I went through my husband's phone again. 3rd time in 3 years. I know from this post it sounds like I go through his phone a lot, but I assure you it was only these 3 times. I couldn't stomach to look more than that due to what I'd find every time. I looked in a message thread between him and Dan without my family friend. And 85% of their conversations are of them taking secret photos of women in running shorts, mini dresses, or any sort of tight clothing and making incredibly degrading comments about their bodies and what they'd like to do. My husband was at Whole Foods with one of my sons, took pictures of multiple women and said to Dan, "Whole Foods crawling with holes I'd like to eat." Dan's wife is going through chemo for breast cancer, and this fucker took a picture of the chemo nurse talking about how fine she was in her scrubs, and I fucked the shit out of her. This was while she was administering the chemo. What in the actual fuck? I obviously cannot and do not plan to stay with this boy. I call him a boy because at 42 years old, you should know better, and apparently he does not, so therefore he does not deserve the title of being called a man. I feel so creeped out being in his presence. We had sex the that same day, before I saw these messages, and I feel so disgusting. I haven't told him I have found these messages yet. I know he will try to explain this away like he has everything else. I'm getting my ducks in a row and raising my boys in an environment of maturity and respect and consent. Thanks for reading if you've made it this far.
When my married coworker cheated on her husband with me, I was working at a small business that had only a handful of employees at the time. I was the primary lead and had the responsibility of overseeing the majority of operations, training staff, front of house interactions with clients, etc. I'm no saint, so I definitely took notice when one of the new hires was an attractive girl about my age. I quickly discovered she was married, which, in addition to her being out of my league, put her outside any chance of taking a chance on. We would spend time alone running appointments and training together, which is where we eventually began sharing more details of our personal lives with each other. I was of course on Tinder and Bumble at the time and would divulge to her my runnings into, and she would chat along just like she was a good buddy of mine, asking questions, giving advice. We got along quite well. The business had multiple branches in different regions and occasionally we'd have conferences out of the area, and it was usually a good opportunity to take these for networking and improving your overall practice. Our team all decided to go on one of these networking conferences out of state, and it was decided that the two of us would make the drive together. During the drive, I can remember reaching a part of a conversation that got me a little choked up to the point I started thinking, whoa, I need to be careful here because this is a slippery slope. I wasn't particularly shy about intimate topics, but I was alone with a person of the opposite sex and wanted to avoid ruining not only the trip but the career I had been building. Funny to think about in hindsight. We get to our location, we all have separate hotel rooms, and everyone decides to meet for dinner, which eventually progressed to drinks, checking out bars in the area. I knew a few of the other attendees and we had a decent-sized group roaming around, all fun people, and at no point did she and I flirt or pair off or anything suggestive. Another attendee picked us all up, dropped her and I off at the hotel, and she mentioned wanting another drink. I had brought a cooler along on the trip which had some beers, invited her to the room completely oblivious to what would happen next. Sure, I knew what goes on in hotel rooms, but she was married, out of my league, and we'd never even flirted. To my surprise, we crack open a couple beers and through my drunk recollection, she begins to explain to me that she wants to hook up. I am baffled and smitten, and doing everything I can to save my ass, but I just could not say no. I play it cool, say she can lay in bed and see what happens, and I kid you not, I fucking pass out before anything happens, until we wake up the next morning. And she's still in my bed, and I'm still a little drunk. I roll over and spoon her, and immediately she turns over, climbs on top of me, and we start getting after it. I'm instantly hard, don't even bother taking her underwear off, I just pull them to the side, force my thick head into her eager married pussy and start wailing away on it. She gets absolutely soaked and comes, and again, and knowing none of this should be happening makes me so hot I tell her I'm going to go quick. Do I need to pull out? No, go right there. And that's what I do. I unload my balls inside her. Feel it squeezing out with each thrust as we slow down. We laugh. She gets up, goes back to her room to clean up because we're already late for the conference. We pretend nothing happened the rest of the weekend. Back home things were a little weird for a couple of weeks, but we end up fucking around a couple more times before eventually she gets an opportunity to work at another job a few months later. I have always had a thing for married women, but that one was one of the best organic scenarios I ever encountered. Hope she reads this and still has my number, LOL.